Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Tonight's date is Friday, February 3rd, 2023. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's happened with the football team over the last couple of weeks, since the last show. Basically, we're going to go over a few things with recruiting as the class is official, and talk about just some of the big time, some of the big guys we're looking forward to, and then a couple transfer things we'll talk about. We got a cornerback from Ole Miss. This was the last week we got him, so that helps definitely with the depth, and then coaches. We'll be talking about coaches to finish up the show. James Laurinaitis, something if people have been watching and listening to our show for a long time have know our feelings about wanting James back in Columbus, and and then we'll finish up on Brian Hartline is going to get some play calling duties in the spring, so that will be a good test for him. So we will finish the show on that. Starting with recruiting, so I think we just decided that we'll just hit a couple big time names that we're looking forward to. I think we probably have some of probably the same names. Obviously, I think a lot of the splash in the class was definitely in the receiving room. Got a couple good corners. Luke Montgomery, somebody I'm looking forward to because he could add possibly some even depth this year. When you think about where maybe we're a little bit behind on some of the offensive line depth going into next season. So why don't you start us off? Just a couple of people you're looking at, and just your maybe just general thoughts about the class.
So starting defensively, I mean, I'm really excited actually about the two cornerbacks they got. I wish they would have got more, but Jermaine Matthews and Calvin Simpson-Hunt, they both seem like excellent cover corners, man-to-man guys. That I saw Calvin Simpson-Hunt in his Army All-American Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just the All-American Bowl? I don't know, but
I don't know.
He looked really good in the man-to-man drills. I mean, he stays on guys' hips. He knows how to look back for the ball. Everything you want in a guy. He seems like, he had just fluid hips, and he knows how to stay with guys, can play a press man really fast. I think he has track speed. So just, you can't teach speed. So, I mean, I'm really excited to see him. And then Jermaine Matthews is a guy from Winton Woods that just jumped up the recruiting boards like crazy once he started camping out. So again, just it looks like he's going to be great in press coverage. And, we really need those guys that are able to be put on islands and can find the ball and are physical and can just wrestle away balls from receivers. So, I mean, those are the two I'm most looking forward to on defense. On offense, I don't want to take too much. I was going to say a collective whole. I've actually gone through three different ones. I was going to say a collective whole, the receivers, because they all bring a little something different. And I don't think Hartline's quite gotten a full group like that yet. So I'm excited about that. But then I was like, nah, I don't want them. And then I thought Jelani Thurman, because I don't think we've seen a tight end like him in a long time. And I said, no, I'm not going with him. And then it's funny because it's the guy that you actually just mentioned, Luke Montgomery, because I think he actually adds a ton into the tackle room. He's probably going to be a right tackle, but I think he helps us out immediately. Could help us out immediately.
I think the thing
he at least gets to the two deep.
Yeah, I think the thing I like about him is that I think he, for somebody that we thought we were going to lose when Stud was here, and Fry ended up saving the day there and bringing him in, and then he ended up becoming a big time spokesman for the class. He was one of the ones that really comes to my head, like him and Ennis, probably the most, that were
Yeah.
probably the most vocal about kids recruiting kids and committing and different stuff like that. And you always need kids like that on the team. And, obviously I'm always going to be partial to Ohio linemen. It's the one thing I always think that I sometimes and I've said this on the show before, sometimes, and I know we get, star, you know, the star ratings, love affair on a lot of things. And I don't think a lot of times, and it could be the spring football thing, it could be a couple other things. I just don't think sometimes the linemen in the state of Ohio get judged correctly as a whole.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's some big time linemen that are in the state. I mean, when you think about guys like Paris and different things like that, obviously, there's been plenty of top level 5-star offensive linemen and that have been in the state of Ohio from, I'm sure going way beyond Orlando Pace through
Yeah.
Orlando Pace into forward. But I think there's a lot of good 3 and 4-star guys there that sometimes I think Ohio State kind of overlooks, and because they're trying to get the 5-star guy out of here or the 5-star guy out of there. And I think that's all really good. And I would love to get those 5-star guys too. But I think that maybe, Ohio State should be like, it's on some of these guys, and I know that they're getting a little nervous, be like, well, if I offer this, high 3-star kid, low 4-star kid out of Ohio, he's probably going to commit immediately. And
Yeah.
obviously it's probably his dream school. And I think that's kind of the risk you take. And I think Luke, but I think they eventually, once you get them into the program and stuff like that, they've always been pretty consistent offensive linemen. I mean, there's masters in this state. I mean, you live in a freaking, I mean, it might be stereotypical, but you live in a damn farm state.
Right.
So these are big body kids that, yeah, they might not be exactly ready because of the spring football stuff, as, that's a whole nother season basically you get with spring football. But you're not necessarily wanting these kids to come in and play as freshmen to begin with. Like, you should never be in a depth issue. Like, it kind of seems like they are, that, you're hoping Luke Montgomery comes in and is able to put some things. So just my 2 cents. I like the fact that he was out there and he was really like pushing the issue with recruiting. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing him play. And I think, yeah, I think like you just said, I really do think he might get some shots this year. And, and playing. I'm definitely with you on the corners. I think that those two guys, there's some chances there. I mean, I know you got Jair back, and you got Denzel back, and you got Hancock. Obviously, that's
Yeah. He'll be up.
coming us up, and you got the kid that we're going to talk about in a second that's transfer in. But that's 4 guys there. I'm trying to think who else they brought in last year. But
Oh shoot. I can't. They got a decent one out. I think he's from.
yeah,
I can't think of his name. Why can't I think of his name? But they got a good one.
yeah. But so there's some opportunities there that they might get a shot to play this year. Especially if you get in some blowouts in situations like that. And it's the kind of the thing we've talked about with Ryan Day. He needs to kind of focus on that a little bit. That you get into situations where you get up, we got to get some of these kids in, and let them work through some of their growing pains actually on a football field against real competition. As long as they're ready to play. And
Ryan Turner. He's from Florida.
okay, yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play too. But again, just a lot like the offensive line, there's still some little depth issues. I would like to have maybe another corner or two on this team. So there's going to be opportunities there for possibly these guys to get in, and see some playing time this year. And I definitely liked, I didn't watch the All-Star games, but I watched some of the different things that people put up. I always get more interested in the practice videos that come out when they're actually doing one-on-ones against legitimate talent, and both of them looked like they could lock down people.
Yeah.
And so, I'm definitely looking forward to that. And they both look like they're big guys, and they got some length to them, and that, you know, which is good. They got strength there. Defensively, just real quick, obviously, I feel a lot about you with the receivers. I think there's some good ones in there. I will actually say the one I'm thinking of the most right now in a second. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Josh Mickens can do, Malik Hartford can do, and Jason Moore can do. They're all pretty high up there.
Yeah.
You had edge rusher, a defensive lineman, and a safety. Hartford, I'm looking forward to. This is a safety driven defense, and I liked a lot of things I saw. Different some of the beat reporters that went to some of his games and stuff. He got some things that got put up on. Obviously he's a local kid, so some of our guys were able to get out to Friday night games with him, and I liked a lot what I saw from him. Different things on Twitter, that videos that got posted throughout the season. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do, and that I think the safety depth's a little bit better than where maybe the corner depth is, but
Well, yeah, safety.
it's a safety, but it's a safety driven defense, and you're going to need three of them. That's pretty much the thing, is three of these guys have to play. And so, I'm really looking forward to them. Obviously, I think Ennis and Tate were obviously the big names, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them. But I am actually, I've really been digging Noah Rogers lately, and I'm like really,
He's good.
And he's got a big body on him, 6'2", and
He's fast too.
And yeah, and that was like the one thing we kind of like. It's like seems like that's kind of the one thing we've missed maybe for a couple years, and I know that both Garrett Wilson and Olave could get open deep, but neither one of them were necessarily known as burners, even though they both had good top end speed.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. And but they got open a lot because they were just really great at doing moves. And I would really I love great moves. I love, tricking corners and stuff like that, and tricking safeties, but I want to see a guy that can just blow by somebody too.
Yeah.
And that we just have somebody to take the top off the ball.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Bryson Rogers,
I think lost you for a second there. You were back?
I'm here. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it was just, I don't know if it was me that went out or you went out. I had a thing that came up that said connection loss, but but just Noah Rogers. I want to see somebody that could really take the top off the ball, and so.
Yeah, and I think Bryson Rogers will be interesting too. He kind of reminds me of JSN. I mean, I don't know if that's blasphemy or not, because that guy's one of the best route runners, ever. But I saw a lot of like his high school film. Of course, you only see the good stuff, but it looked. I mean, it reminded me of him, of just the short distance route running, how he can get open, close to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. And it'll definitely be interesting with some of these guys how well they do now going forward. That Brian Hartline's not necessarily going to be teaching them on day-to-day stuff, and so much of our receiver success over the last couple of seasons is that they've had a really, really good coach in the room that knew his stuff. And nothing against Keegan, and I'm think that he could be the real deal. It's just Hartline's just got other responsibilities now. I'm sure he's going to be paying a lot of attention still to the receivers. Those are his babies, but so that'll be a little interesting going forward. But sure. I definitely like this class. I think top to bottom, and we've had some pretty damn good classes. I mean, obviously we don't know what last year's class is going to bring us yet. But I think probably on paper, this has been my favorite class coming into,
over the last couple, or receiver only
receivers.
Oh,
I like, okay. Yeah.
I was whoa.
No. Sorry. We're just talking about receivers here. That
I think 2021, man, we had Jack Sawyer, JT.
No.
Okay.
Just for the receivers, I think just on paper,
I agree with you.
Coming into it, obviously they got to prove themselves. So, right. I mean, obviously you think about Marvin Abuka and stuff, and
sure, yeah,
but I think these guys are very interesting, coming in together. So definitely something I'm looking forward to. And I definitely agree with you with what was it, Jelani. I want to see what he looks like, going forward. And I kind of want to see what, I'm kind of interested about, Will Smith and Caden McDonald. I definitely like a big having getting a big body in there at defensive lineman was very good. It seems like sometimes we don't get those guys initially, and we got to kind of build their weights up. I like getting a guy that's already over 300 pounds, and then you just kind of
Well, I mean,
now you kind of fit in
it's
now where
supposed
the
to
weight.
move very well too.
Yeah, so a lot to like in the class. It wasn't necessarily a big class, but the transfers add a little bit more depth to it, and we'll see where things end up after spring if we have to pick up a few more transfers. So unless you want to touch on anything else with the actual recruiting class, uh, we can get into the cornerback we just got out of Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue. So Davison Igmanosin, I don't know if he was all freshman SEC or not. I know he was good. He started at Ole Miss as a freshman, so he has 3 years of eligibility left. Gets to play immediately. Long kid, 6'2", 185. I like that in a corner. It seems like he can cover well. He had like 5 pass deflections or something this year. I know I heard, pretty much like he had a lot of good plays, and there's some plays on film that he got burned, which he's a freshman in the SEC, so that's going to happen. But it seems like he's a physical player, though. He comes down, meets the ball carriers on running plays. So, I mean, nothing not to like. You like having those long guys, too. They've always
Yeah.
been good for Ohio State, so I'm happy to see it. I think he'll do well.
I think the only thing that was kind of like just kind of and this is old football thinking here is like and I get it, recruiting or transferring is a lot different now. It's just I was a little weird that like for somebody that actually did get some playing time this year that why he was transferring out of there. You would think he would want to stay down in the SEC, but I don't know. I mean
At the
that
end of the day, Mike, it's still Ole Miss.
yeah, I get that.
He's from
It
New
was
Jersey.
just a little. Yeah, and that makes a little bit more sense. It was just a little weird to me. I just like I just hope there's no problems or anything like that. But again,
Yeah,
like
Lane Kiffin.
that's
And that's the problem is Lane Kiffin.
again
Thank
that's
you.
old school thinking. I guess that some of these are just kids that just want to transfer now. But I think he is. I did like some of the stuff I saw, some of the stuff you just mentioned. And I think he's going to add some very valuable depth and possibly could threaten for
Early start right
the other
away.
side for Denzel Burke. So something to keep both Hancock and Jair you know keep their feet to the fire because he's got some playing time. He's been thrown in the fire, so he could light you know a fire under Walton, and Walton loves him, and
Yeah, I
he ends up starting.
I consider 3 corner starters. So he's immediately a starting cornerback. And then that kid they got from Syracuse, which I'm not going to look it up. His name escapes me. I think it's like Jihad Carter.
Yeah, I got it.
I think he immediately starts as a nickel
Yeah,
safety for
Jahad
us.
Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they actually do got 2 starting secondary members that have transferred in. So I mean, I know they're not Michigan. We'll talk Michigan. They got a lot of like line transfers in, like really good guys. These guys aren't maybe as good as what they got, but they're going to be starters, and they're gonna add a lot to our team. So
Hmm.
very excited for that.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think I like some of the kids that they got. It was interesting. I didn't realize the quarterback he's kind of coming in because he wants to be a coach one day, and I guess having a veteran in the locker room, that was kind of what Dave was talking about. It doesn't hurt necessarily. You have a fourth break glass emergency quarterback if God forbid you lose 3 of them, and then also possibly they might even decide that he might be the third starter over the freshman
Right.
if they decide that because he's actually got experience. So so that's obviously that's a good thing. I liked what I see there for him.
I mean, he's in right in spring.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I mean, the Lincoln Keenholz doesn't come in him in, I don't believe, till summertime.
I
So
think that's what Ryan Day said. Is that
yeah,
he's
so I
in?
mean, this guy, you don't want McCord, and I know Brown and McCord are up to the challenge, but you don't need their arms falling off in the spring either. So this is a guy that gets some some extra snaps.
Yeah.
helps out. But yeah, I mean that it's a big get.
And I think, Cutler, the lineman, I think
He'll challenge, or he might challenge for a starting center.
yeah, I think, that leaves a possibility there that, we do need some depth in the middle. Whippler, it seemed like Whippler threw everybody for a little bit of a loop that he decided to leave.
But Justin Fry did name Carson Hinsman, the kid we got from Wisconsin, out of Wisconsin last year, as a guy that's been looking good at center. So
Yeah.
look out for that.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree that there could be
Yeah, Luke Whippler, and I didn't think of this originally, so I'm not gonna like take credit for it. But with all the NIL craziness that's going on in these collectives that want pat on the back all the time, like Luke Whippler isn't gonna get some crazy, crazy, crazy deal going to the NFL. I mean, maybe he will. Who knows? Maybe he'll surprise us. I think he'll probably be like a third or fourth round draft pick. Like, you're telling me you couldn't have got the money together to get Luke Whippler back for another season?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Um, listen to the Day's press conference this week and just kind of reading between the line. I mean, he was kind of surprised. He's like, and then it was funny. He's like, Paris should go. I think Paris could go to the first round, and hopefully Luke gets drafted. And then like he waits a second. He's like, early.
I mean, he's going to get drafted. I don't know. Center is such a hard position to call out,
The thing about that is that, yeah, I think he'll probably get drafted, but you know how that thing goes.
He's a really good center.
You slide into day 3 and teams just start forgetting about you. And then before
I mean, it's like once you get there, it's just so many teams do have needs, and it's just, you can get buried easily. Like, you can be forgotten.
Yeah. I mean, I think he will get drafted, but it's just like I said.
I could see day 2. I could see either end of second, anywhere in the third, but it could go day 3. Yeah. I don't think he'll be undrafted. He's a really good center. I don't think he'll be undrafted. Yeah. But you never know. I don't see first round. Now, DeJuan Jones, I saw him. I think his stock went up, and then he got hurt. So, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Everyone's saying he did enough what he needs to do. So I could definitely see high second round for him, but he could sneak into the first round with what he was doing in practice.
Yeah.
Pancaking dudes left and right. He's a mountain.
We'll be definitely talking. Yeah. I look forward to talking some NFL stuff once we
drafts another day.
When we get down a little bit down the road. All right. So
the big get.
Little animal back in Columbus.
Coming home.
I will say one thing, and I didn't realize, somebody put up the, it was just some random person put up like what we were rated in, special teams this year. And I don't know, maybe he was a linebacker specialist coach last year. I would be okay I would like to see him out recruiting. And like, I would be okay naming him right now the special teams coach and let him actually physically go recruit and then help out in the linebacker room and try to take over the linebackers. Listen to him talk. And now, granted, I listened to his radio show, him and Bo Bishop's radio show, pretty religiously when he was on, almost every day. So I've always been a James Laurinaitis fan. And, from back when he played here, and obviously I loved watching him. I didn't get to watch a lot of Rams games, but anytime they'd play the Browns or they were on TV, I watched them. And I mean, he was a hell of a lot. I mean, he's just a hell of a linebacker, but he's
played in the NFL for a long, long time.
He's just so smart though, and like when you hear him talk, like he knows what he's talking about, and he can coach the stuff. And I always thought that when he was doing the radio show. But I can understand they kind of like reading between the lines is a couple of the things that Ryan Day said, because I kind of been hard on them that I thought they should go out and get him. But Ryan Day kind of said it in his press conference this week that he's like, I had to be sure that he was crazy enough that he wanted to get into it. Yeah. And I get that point of view. I mean, the guy made it. He made it in the NFL for a long time. He's got money. He doesn't need to go coach. And he's got a pretty good gig between the Big Ten Network and 97.1 that, he's making money that he doesn't need. So you have to be a certain dedicated person. So I get Ryan Day's point of view on that he had to see that, he really wanted to do this. And I think once Day saw that he really wanted to do this and he did it at Notre Dame and he did a good job. And, a lot of people over there was talking very highly about him. And that I think that it was a no-brainer. This guy needs to be here and he needs to be coaching. And, I just loved a lot of the stuff he said in his press conference.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Watch him very quickly do what Hartline did. Take, guys that were good, because I'm not going to talk bad about the guys that were in the room, and because I think Urban and Zach Smith, they did recruit a very good room that Brian Hartline came into, but he did take them to the next level. So watch what James does here, that he will become, I believe, Brian Hartline of the defense. I think he'll get a promotion within, I want to say 1 year. I think next year he will be a full-time coach that's on the road recruiting. 2 years tops. Outside of that, though, like how he talked it kind of just reminds me of Brian. It's like, he talked about who he was as a player, that he was never, I want to say twitched up would be the way I would take it, that he couldn't make a false step and recover from that and make the plays that he needed to. Now, he did credit himself. He's like, I was a good athlete for the time I was playing in, but I couldn't just do that. So I had to be X's and O's. I had to know what they were doing pre-snap. And then he went on to say, I can get these guys now that they could be those freak athletes, but if they know what I know and they know what, what's going on pre-snap, where's your leverage at? Where's a chip coming from, a pick coming from, that they can think about all that stuff and they know it's coming before the ball's even snapped, or at least they have a good idea that could be coming. Now think about how fast they can play. They're these freak athletes that now they have all this knowledge in their head. Think about how fast they can play. And I think that's going to resonate with all these guys, just like Hartline does, that it's not going to be about the upfront, $1 million, 500,000, whatever, to come to Ohio State, the nonsense NIL inducements that we're all fighting with right now. But it's going to be, this guy's going to make me a multi, over millionaire for years to come in the NFL, because he's going to take what I have, this ball of clay, and he's going to fill my head with all this football knowledge, and I'm going to be the total package after.
Yeah. And I loved when he said that, because honestly, that is like the one thing that, he could be a leader on the whole defense with that, because when you really look over the last couple seasons, the biggest issue, a lot that they've had, I mean, a lot of it's tackling. They got to fix some of that, but a lot of that is just that they react wrong on different things, and then they take poor pursuit angles. And it's like they take those bad missteps, and they do have athletes all over the field. And sometimes, they're able to run somebody down because they do have an athlete, but other times it's like the other team's got an athlete too, and your bozo misstep or whatever just costs a 50-yard touchdown run or a 60-yard touchdown run.
And there wasn't a lot of that with linebackers this year. So I mean,
there wasn't.
It was a well-coached group. So I mean, they're going to miss the guy that left, but I think they're getting a better one coming in.
Yeah. I really think that what he's going to do, and he kind of said it this year, he was kind of running the linebackers up at Notre Dame. I think he's going to end up doing that here. And that lets Knowles, he gets to be a world traveler around the defense. And I think that's desperately needed too. And that's why if this works, I think he needs to be promoted next year. And, maybe that's half linebacker coach and then linebacker coach, and he takes over special teams, and, he's the man, because you're going to have to free up a coaching spot somewhere. So Parker obviously, makes the most sense, on that. But who knows? There's talks that they might get another in the next couple of years too. They might get another coach, from the NCAA. So that could happen too.
Larry Johnson could walk away. I mean, I know it's not what he played, but He might be a defensive line coach first, like
You never know, and I mean it could happen. I think he has a lot of knowledge about the game of football, and he played middle linebacker, and back at his time at middle linebacker, that was still the captain of the defense. That was the
right.
quarterback of the defense. So, the middle linebacker literally had to know what everybody else was doing because he's the one that had to direct everybody, and
I
so
did like when he said that Spagnola told him the advice to get into coaching, coach offense.
yeah, I like that too. I laughed when he said that.
Oh, funny.
I mean, it was literally like you thought he'd been coaching for 10 years. I mean, that's how polished he was. I
Yeah.
mean, he was it wasn't like he was phased at all when he was going talking to his guy. I mean, obviously it's kind of funny that he's a grad assistant. It's like, I mean the
You
dude's got
talking
more
about that,
knowledge.
it's like, can I do that? And like, because that's how Marcus introduced him when I don't know if you listened to Austin Ward's
I didn't
podcast
get the chance to, I
today.
just
They were interviewing him though, and he's like, "Yeah, when I'm at South Bend, Marcus introduces me as a GA. Here, I thought I was an analyst." And I'm like, GA? And he's like, the important thing is that means I can be on the practice field. I can be on the field with the guys, that
yeah.
I don't just sit up in a booth and watch it. So, yeah, but he has to enroll in school to be a GA. So,
Yeah, so I don't. Well, I mean, whatever. It's taking some extra education. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I guess at that point you get to take some fun classes if you want to. But
right.
knowing James, he's probably taking something very serious. I mean, the dude. I mean, if anybody's not listened to when he was on the radio, I mean, he's a very intellectual guy. I mean, he likes being challenged mentally on stuff like that. I mean, because I always used to remember. I wrote down a lot of the different books he would used to recommend on the show that he was reading at the time and stuff. So, I mean. Yeah. I mean, I was super happy when they brought him back. And then it's like listening to him talk, and I know it's just talking, but I'm like, that's why I wanted the guy here because
Yeah.
he understands this game and he understands the position. And I think he's going to end up he's just going to be that guy. He's going to be the Hartline of the defense. And my God, when this guy starts recruiting, like when he's actually allowed to go out there, I don't even want to know the kids that he's going to sell to come to Columbus because he's going to sell kids that, he's going to go into a 5-star home somewhere just like Brian Hartline is going into, different people's like the Garrett Wilsons of the world and the Carnell Tates and the Brandon Ennis's and,
Mhm.
he's and the Marvin Harrison Juniors. And he's like, come to Columbus and, yeah, like these kids can go anywhere they want and they're coming here. And I just think that's going to be the exact same thing. And, and I think, we've never really necessarily had problems getting linebackers, but we're going to continue getting those big time linebackers. But this time, it just seems like over the last couple of years that some of these guys haven't had the right teachers. And, and I'm just thinking of guys that's just, it took a while for them to get it and have been like, what if they don't take a while to get it now because they just have somebody that really knows the position
Mhm.
teaching them. I mean, what's he going to do for somebody like CJ Hicks? It's going to be the world. And like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, though, I mean, I know when he gets the guys on the phone, he'll get them into the camps, and I know he'll impress the hell out of them during the camps. But there's going to be guys that are going to be, pursued by the Georgias and Alabamas and the USCs and Miamis and Texases of the world that they're not going to commit right there at a camp. So they better have a damn good closer on the road, or they better make him full time pretty quick. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I'd hate for him to have some guy right there on the line, and then somebody doesn't want to travel to go see them. Like, I don't know, Hartline might have to be pulling double duty. It might have to go recruit some defensive guys too.
And I think the thing is why I want him on the road is I don't know what Parker's like on the road. I know Knowles.
Have you
I mean,
heard of Parker Fleming's signing anybody? Like, honestly,
no, I haven't.
I
And
haven't. And I hate
and
taking
I'm
guys.
not saying though he's not. He's just maybe a nobody, and it's just I don't know if he's got the oomph to be able to do it. I mean,
That's what I'm
we
saying.
we know Iliano. He's got a good reputation on the road. Larry always had a good reputation on the road, but he's getting older now. I don't know how much Larry likes, that he likes to be out there as much as I mean, it's pretty well known that, Knowles is not, it's not his favorite thing in the world to, be out
It
and
better
about.
start being his favorite thing, man.
And,
We need studs.
and then, And I'm not sure how Walton feels about it. It seems like he was out pretty much, and it seems like he likes it. But he's coming from the NFL, so I don't know if
Long time in the NFL.
that's the thing. So I think we need another guy with Eliano that really likes doing that. It's got some energy out there,
Yeah.
and he loves Ohio State, and I think that I will say, the thing the two favorite parts of the things that he said in the press conference. So you already talked about the one when he said, he needed to know the X's and O's and stuff like that. But I loved when he said when they were asking about Brian Hartline and being wide receiver you and now, and he's like, this is Ohio State. You're one of the top programs in the country. We should be wide receiver you and linebacker you and DL you. And he's like, you're at a school that you can literally have it all. And I'm like, yeah, I love that. like,
Well, and he
like,
believes it too.
but
And that's not saying that, guys from the past didn't they blew smoke up your ass or anything like that. I mean, like Jim Knowles said a lot last year, I'm at the Ohio State, and having that on my shirt got me into places, that I didn't get to go in before, and it helps with recruiting. But I think Hartline definitely he takes that to a different level with his recruiting, and I think James will do the same once he's in that position that he's actually on the road. I think he's going to kill recruiting. Like I think on the phone and in camp, he's just going to light it up, and he's going to get some big names quick. I really do believe that. And I
yeah,
think I think that's just ultimately is going to force the hand that he has to be on the road sooner than later.
yeah. And just one last thing on him is I think the thing that he's going to bring, just like I think Hartline brings it, is that he's a no bullshitter. And sometimes when you're Brian Hartline and you're James Laurinaitis, you can be a no bullshitter because you know what you're talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a lot of recruiting is blowing smoke up people's ass. And I think Brian Hartline I think he can go into a recruit's house, a 5-star recruit's house, and I think he can be serious and be like, hey, this is something that you need to work on.
Yeah.
But you'll be great at it if you come to Ohio State. And this is what I did in the NFL, and come here. And I think Laurinaitis will be the same way. And like I don't think he's going to be like rah rah rah. Ohio State's going to do this, this, and this, and this for you. I think he'll say that that's going to be his closing pitch, but he's going to say, yeah, you're a damn good player, but you know what? You're a little slow reacting here on this stuff. And yeah, you're the man here in high school, but next year you're not going to be the man anymore, no, regardless of where you go. So, go somewhere that, I'm going to make you the man, and you get to go, and then you get to be not the man anymore when you go to an NFL and learn to try to become the man again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think that's kind of going to be his philosophy and stuff. And that's again, just how I feel how he is just from listening to him from so many years on the radio, that he's not a bullshitter. And he's always honest. I mean, he's always been very super honest whenever he's like talked about the Buckeyes. like
Yeah.
you know when they only win by 2 touchdowns, it's like, yeah, that was Toledo. We should have won by 5 touchdowns. And he kind of talked about that in the press conference. That was another thing he talked about in the press conference. He's like, hey, there's going to be teams we play on the schedule that we need to win every game, and there's going to be teams on the schedule we have to win impressively. and
Mm-hmm.
and so he
Yeah.
gets that.
And I think I mean, it all depends how you relate to people and how you do it teaching. So, but when you start in the NFL, and I'm saying 5 because of, Brian's time there, but if you're a starter in the NFL for 5+ years, there's not much about football, at least your position, that you don't know.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
the NFL is just a different beast. So there's not much you're going to be able to tell James about defense, specifically what a linebacker needs to do, that is going to shock him, or he's going to learn from that. Of course, he has to learn the system, be able to teach it, and then that's where you actually see where his teaching chops come in. Can he relate to the guys? Can he show them what they need to do? I have full confidence in him, but there's not going to be an actual better teacher of the position than him on the team,
Yeah.
or at least a more knowledgeable person of the position than him on the team.
No. Yeah. Definitely. Um. All right.
Now let's talk about the second guy then.
Brian Hartline. So it was Ryan Day did obviously we talked about already that he got his promotion. We talked about that in the last episode. And we did some speculation, how much is he going to actually be able to do play calling, stuff like that? Is he going to be doing some play calling in the spring? Well, that was answered this week. He is going to get the opportunity to do play calling in the spring. Very smart decision on Ryan Day. And what that tells me is Ryan Day is actually very serious about eventually turning over the responsibilities to this because, he could very easily say that, I'm going to call it this spring and he's going to learn underneath me. No, he said, hey, you're going to kind of throw his feet to the fire right here. And kind of the way he sounds like it, just from listening to his press conference a little bit, that he said that I think he's going to let Jim Knowles kind of, you know, welcome Brian Hartline's play calling, and he's going to let them play against each other, obviously. And that makes all the sense in the world. You put a black shirt on frickin' McCord and Brown, and, you let everybody go full go. And, let Brian Hartline see maybe some complicated stuff thrown at him and see how he reacts to it. And, Ryan Day's like, obviously fundamentals is very important in spring, and we're going to do all that. But I got to create, he's like, I'm also have to find a starting quarterback. We got to create as many game time situations as we can create this, this off season. And, I like that approach. And I think that's going to be the smart approach. And, let's see how Brian reacts to, a defensive play caller, that does know what he's doing. And, you can have some, there's obviously issues about how the end of season ended, but he does know how to call a defense. He's done it for a long time, and he's going to throw a lot of looks at Hartline. I guarantee this spring that's going to make Brian have to stop and think sometimes on some stuff. So I like that philosophy going into the spring.
I will say though, and I get given game time situations to the quarterbacks and everything, but please stress fundamentals on defense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, those last two games, you won over half those games, but the little parts that you didn't win are what cost you the game because they were big parts that you didn't win.
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree with that. You
won like 90% of the Georgia game, but 10% of the game that you lost cost you.
Yeah. And I think that he did say they're going to work on fundamentals, and I agree. I do believe that they're going to do it. And, I think that you got a lot of veterans back on the team though, too. So I think that, I think a lot of the fundamentals and going hard, and, I think you can kind of do both together in a lot of ways. You can kind of, do game time situations and still be teaching fundamentals. You stop if somebody misses a tackle, you stop it and throw somebody else in. You got enough players on this team. If somebody misses tackle, okay, you need to step out now, and we're gonna let somebody else play, and you need to watch that from over there, and so I think
to get down to like business on this though, I do think Brian's going to be successful as an offensive play caller. I mean, the guy's been successful his whole career. I don't see any reason to doubt him now that he can't do this. I know some people are scared, like, oh, they're just going to pass. No, I don't think Brian's just going to pass. I think Brian's going to learn what makes him successful, and he's going to go with that. Now, I mean, of course, he got all these receivers in. He's going to have a big-time quarterback. So it might be like Joe Brady with Joe Burrow and really unlock the passing of this offense. But he's not going to not run the ball, and they're not going to not run the ball effectively.
No, Brian Hartline is smart enough, and considering now he's recruiting for the whole offense, that he's going to still want to get the Trey Hendersons of the world and the Evan Pryors of the world and the Dallin Haydens of the world. Well, right. you got to run the ball if you're going to get recruits. So
Jim Tressel was his college coach. He understands the importance of running the ball.
Jim Tressel was both the guys that we just talked about, college coaches, and they both have had a lot of high praise to say about him over the years.
Oh, yeah. What bad can you say about Tressel? He didn't turn in guys for getting tattoos. Come on.
Yeah. But no, I do give Brian the chance and see what he can do, and then they're going to give Dave some confidence, I think, going into the season that you know, if he struggles a little bit play calling, maybe Day starts him off a little slower in the season, and you know the bad games, the Youngstown State. All right, I'm gonna let you call Youngstown State, and I'm gonna call Notre Dame, but you're gonna call Youngstown State, and a couple of the other games, and and we're gonna work this through until you're fully ready. But might as well see what he gets now. Baptism by fire.
I agree. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. I think he'll be a very dynamic recruiter for all positions on the field, not just wide receiver or all positions on the offense, I should say. People are going to want to play in his offense. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
excited.
looking forward to seeing some of that now when he gets to be the him and Ryan Day are the final voice going into an offensive lineman's house or a top running back's house.
Just it's a hell of a personality too. I mean,
exactly. And
them
can you imagine them together, going to get a 5-star tackle from somewhere, yeah, they're going to sell some of these kids some of this stuff. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And obviously this offense, I don't think recruiting a receiver is going to fall down at all. Just like I don't think quarterback recruiting is going to fall down at all because, you know, if you get big time quarterbacks, they're going to want to still come to the school because Ryan Day is the head coach. You're going to get receivers to be able to follow it. So, like, Brian Hartline's going to have no problem still getting his receivers, even though he's not necessarily dedicated to the receiver room anymore. So, I think all that will be fine.
Very true.
Anything else you want to hit on before we get on out?
Tough Borland joined Luke Fickell's staff. It sounds like as a GA, so that's a good first move for him. I like that.
I mean, I gave Tough a lot of crap as a player, but the kid obviously knew football. Like I never questioned his brain. I just didn't feel like he should be covering Devontae Smith. But
like athletically tough did leave a lot to be desired, but
he's going to be
can't question his heart or his brain while playing middle linebacker.
Great move for Fickell. That's why another thing that why I think getting a guy like James Laurinaitis is very imperative for Ryan Day because big time,
Luke Fickell James would have. I mean, there's a good chance he would have left Marcus one way or another this offseason because he would have been James GA at linebacker with the fast track for when Leonard's finally out there, if he's not already, that he would have been the next defensive coordinator, linebacker coach at Wisconsin. So, I mean, James is no shortage of places that he can go and be an immediate impact and be a coach because it would have been either with his best buddy at Notre Dame, his former coach at Wisconsin, or at his alma mater.
With obviously the East is the East, but with Fickell at Wisconsin, Rule at Nebraska, Bielema's got Illinois on the rise. USC and UCLA are going to be in the conference here in a year. This
Iowa's making no changes offensively. Beautiful.
I mean, sometimes you can't lead them to water. The dead horse to or the horse to water. Sometimes they just are just stubborn, but yeah, no.
Not only you can't make them drink, but you can't get them to the water hole.
You can't even get them there. Can't even get them there. I mean, my God. Thank God I'm not an Iowa fan. I mean, I have sometimes it's being a Buckeye fan, we like the bitch like the world's crash and burning, and then you look at some of the other teams in the conference and be like, yeah, you're still you might have lost to Michigan for 2 straight seasons. You got to correct that, but you're still the top dog in this conference.
That's what I'm saying, man. I mean, it's still. I don't want. I hope you don't lose a third time in a row. It's going to be tough in Ann Arbor with a new quarterback, but man, you're still the most talented team, and there's just, your coach, and there's guys that give him a lot of crap, and like, I like Ryan Day, but I'm not like Ryan Day is the only the end all be all. Like I was very critical at first of the decision because I didn't think he had the coaching experience to be at Ohio State. But you still got to understand, just because there's a guy with experience doesn't mean he's done a damn thing with that experience. Like there's a lot of guys that have been head coaches that have sucked. So you need more than just like they were a head coach. But where I'm going with this before I go off of too much of a tangent, though, is that Ryan Day's actually shown, though, whether it's always been good choices or not, he's not afraid to replace people. Like he'll try to make his team better.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that.
he's
I think
on the right track. It's just he's still very early in his head coaching career, but he's making moves. Like he realizes that, play calling might be too much of a distraction for him when he has a million other things going on. And now it's time to trust it with someone else.
I like and I do like it because he didn't say Michigan specifically, but he literally said in his press conference, he's like, "Hey, when things are coming down the stretch, I might need to be focused a little bit more on other aspects of the team." I think that's definitely him saying that, I've lost 2 straight years to Michigan, and am I not, am I not looking at everything that needs to be looked at here in this going into this rivalry game, and that am I making sure that every aspect of the team is ready to go for it? And I think he is starting to realize that, and so yeah, if Brian Hartline can take that load off his plate. And obviously, Ryan Day is still going to be heavily, heavily, heavily involved
Oh,
in
yeah.
the offensive direction of this football team. But
Urban Meyer didn't call his plays. Urban Meyer vetoed a hell of a lot of plays. No, I think JT needs to run the ball here. I mean, those weren't Herman designs. I mean,
yeah,
they might have been Warner designs for sure, and Tim Beck, but I mean, there was a lot of vetoes. I mean, Ryan Day came in as Urban's offensive coordinator, play caller, and 2017 JT still ran the ball quite a bit.
yeah, yeah. And as Zach Smith has always said on his podcast, that Urban was not always the politest in the world when he would veto.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, be happy for the coach you have. I know, like I was as critical as the next person when it comes to experience, but Ryan Day does try to make his team better, and he'll keep finding out. And it might be, hopefully it's this year that they win a national title, but he's very early in his career. It might be
Yeah.
another 4 years, but he'll get there. He's finding stuff out about what he needs to do to become a better coach, and he's still successful. I mean, we can't fire a guy because he doesn't get a national title. Like,
Yeah.
now you can get fired for losing to Michigan too many times, so
Yeah.
he does need to right that wrong, but he's still one of the top 5 coaches in college football in year 4. So you can't be too, pissed off about what you have.
Yeah. No, definitely agree. Alrighty. I think we should call it a night.
Can I have one more thing without getting in too big of a tangent? We could finish this another time. For the people freaking out about Mark Pantoni saying that if a kid's all NIL, we might need to move on from him. He's not saying we're not going to recruit kids nationally. He's saying if a kid comes up and says, "Hey, give me $1 million or I'm not considering your school," Ohio State's going to tell them to kick rocks and move on down the road. And Ohio State should do that. Like, what Ohio State's not going to be held hostage by anybody.
Here's all I'm going to say about the NIL stuff. And I've said Ohio State multiple times on the show, Ohio State does need to come up with some sort of solutions with the NIL. I've said that. I've said also Ohio State needs to make sure that they're looking at the transfer portal a little bit more aggressively than I think that they do. I've also said that. Here's what I will say about the NIL. Nick Saban literally said in this offseason, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, that I had 2 guys basically that wanted a bunch of, and we told them no and have good luck.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing, Kirby Smart's pretty much being the same way at Georgia. Obviously, we know Dabo's thought process on it, but Clemson's still one of the top teams in the country. So I see Alabama doing this. I see Georgia doing this. I see Ohio State doing that. I'm seeing programs that do have a culture that are not necessarily willing to just blow their culture up just to give somebody
an 18-year-old $1 million to play there.
And I kind of agree with that. So until USC and Miami and some of these other schools start winning national championships on a regular basis, I'm not going to worry about it as much right now. Yes, I think the collectives, and I like where some of the collectives are moving. I think they need to get a good game plan together. Maybe they need to work with each other a little bit more and come up with some sort of, game plan that gets some of the businesses involved and some of the things a little bit better and a little bit more crisper than they are doing. I understand why they've slow played some of it because it is the Wild West out there. And Ohio State, I've said that, they need to throw the double bird at the NCAA when the NCAA comes knocking and be like, "Oh, you did a boo boo. Well, f off. Like here's my attorney's phone number. You call them and you guys work it out." Like I feel like Ohio State should do a little bit more of that. Obviously, image still matters a lot to Ohio State. It matters a lot to Gene, so they don't do that. I'm not going to get into Gene Smith's in a lot better position as a human being or, in his career than I've ever gotten to. Right. So, Gene has a reputation that he worries about and, I respect that. So I'm not going to, crucify the man because that's his positioning and stuff like that. I think the collectives do need to come up with I think they need to hone in on a game plan. I think they are. It just takes a minute. But I'm not seeing Ryan Day miss playoffs because Miami is throwing $75K at people. Look at all the money that supposedly got thrown around down at A&M, and they sucked this year. So,
they had a losing record.
Like, it does get to the point, and we've seen this in professional sports. Sometimes the teams that throw around you're not finding like the fits and the Yankees have had that problems now for how many years?
What was the downfall of the Yankees? Because we saw the Yankees win 3 World Series in a row in the late 90s with a core.
Yeah.
And they won one, in 96 before that. So they won 4 in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
With a just core of people. And then they're like, well, if we buy everybody, we're going to keep winning. And they never won again. They won one.
They won one in 07 or whatever it was. But yeah, no, they had, before they went out and got the A-Rods and stuff of the world, like Paul O'Neill and Bernie Williams, Brocious, those guys didn't make a lot of money, but they were all key players they
usually get like a splash signing of a pitcher.
Yeah. They did bring in some big time people, but it was not, they also had pieces in them. And, and a lot of people probably rolling their eyes on the Yankees. There's just one example, but the Red Sox were the same way when the Red Sox were winning. They had big time players, but they also had what was that damn freaking shortstop that in Yukis at first base or whatever that always killed the freaking Indians.
Well, you couldn't get the guy out, man. I mean, Yukis was a 20 at bat pitcher or 20 pitch at bat hitter.
My point is just that you don't need to be signing we can throw $1 million at that guy and $1 million at that guy. When Miami starts winning national titles again, I'll be like, okay, Miami has figured the NIL game out, but they're not there yet. We saw this year that they're, they got, obviously, I think some of these teams are bringing in too many top level players because of all this stuff. And you need to have the guys that know the roles too.
The team. First time around, and probably the second too, when Miami was good, it wasn't because they spent millions of dollars to get the kids on campus. They waited till the kids signed because they wanted to be Hurricanes, and then they offered them the millions of dollars to make plays. There's got to be incentive there. You can't just say, here's $1 million, come play for us. The kid's already made his money before doing anything. That is a dumbass way to do business.
Yeah. So
in a results driven, industry.
Yeah. And I'm not worried about USC throwing a bunch of money at people right now. I mean, USC needs to win a national title. Okay. They
do. Yeah. I mean, that's not, I don't need, right. Like Lincoln Riley. I mean, he might be a better offensive mind vertically than Ryan Day, but he's got to do it I'm more impressed with Ryan Day than I am with Lincoln Riley as a head coach. And Mario Cristobal, he might have beat Ryan Day head to head one time, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not sold on him in Miami. I mean, you got to start winning games. And
so I mean, I definitely like Ohio. I think I like Ohio State's approach.
We could do a whole NIL.
I know. Let's not blow up the culture of the team, and just because we can start throwing a bunch of money around. Obviously, let's get kids in there. And I liked what some of the kids said this year. Ennis said it. A couple of these guys, I could have went and got big time money at some of these other schools. I want to go learn with Brian Hartline and Ryan Day, and those. I'm going to throw away possibly a better chance to make even more money down the road because now I'm a first round draft pick, and so I think I like that approach, and I think you're going to still get kids like that. I think the Georgias are going to still get kids like that, and I think the Alabamas are going to still get kids like that. And I like the approach that we're not necessarily going to, until some of these other teams start proving stuff to us that is the way to go. That why should I give up the stuff that I know what I'm doing, that this is tried and perfected over how many years?
I mean, I've watched football for a long time, and I don't follow the NFL like I used to. Don't follow the draft like I used to, but there's freak athletes that still will always get drafted high. You don't see a lot of high draft picks though from loser teams, man. Because guys check out once they're on a loser, and that's just how life is. So there's not a lot of guys that are getting drafted in the first round of the NFL that they have teams that lost 6+ games a year.
No, that's
it
why
doesn't happen.
when you see Alabama have 8 first round draft picks and Ohio
winners.
State have 6, I mean, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, over the last several years, we've seen all those teams, Clemson, have had multiple first rounders or multiple first and second rounders. Why? Because they bought into their programs. They have good coaches, and they were developed.
Yeah, and that's that second part. What you just said there, they bought in. If you're not buying in, you're losing, and if you're not, you're not putting in that effort. I don't care who you are. Once you start losing, you check out, and you see it all the time. So I said, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. There always will be, but vast majority of those first rounders come from good teams.
Yeah, definitely in on that one. All right, I think we I mean, again, like you said, we could do an NIL, and we probably as we get into the drolls of spring, we'll talk more about this
we're only like a month away from spring practice.
I know we got
round.
We got some tournament stuff. I mean, we'll be talking about the NCAA's.
Talk about them eventually, don't we?
Yeah. So then you got spring football, and and then you got the draft. So we got football's an all-year sports. Probably why Ohio will not let us have spring football, but so one day.
All right, I'm getting us out of here. Thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added, and please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.